Yesterday, I talked quite a bit about the legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court Justice who passed on over the weekend. And she, of course, is going to lie in state. There's going to be very serious and reverential honoring of her life and her service on the Supreme Court. But we are moving very quickly toward replacing her seat on the Supreme Court. President Trump has announced that he is ready to roll, that between now, as soon as possible, he wants to have the United States Senate vote on a nominee that he makes, that person to fill the Supreme Court out to 9 seats again before we get to the fall elections. So I wanted to hit on something that happened. This is just kind of over the last 24 hours, but Senator Lindsey Graham has said that he believes that the United States Senate, the Republican majority, has the votes ready to at least vote on this possible nominee and perhaps to confirm. So Lindsey Graham is saying, we got the votes, we're ready. And in a pretty shocking announcement, Senator Mitt Romney of Utah has announced he actually thinks that the Senate Republicans ought to follow the Constitution. I'm not really joking. He made an announcement. This is Mitt Romney, who is kind of an endless thorn in the side of President Trump, kind of always needling him and needlessly disagreeing with him. But even Senator Romney said, we need to go ahead and have these hearings. We have to follow the Constitution. The president has the right to make a nomination. The Senate then holds a vote. So it looks like at least we're going to have that happen. President Trump has apparently announced he's going to let the nation know on Saturday who the nominee, down to 2 women apparently, which are both conservative justices, have been long known to the members of the Senate. One is Amy Coney Barrett. She was probably considered the front runner. The other one is Barbara Lagoa. Both women have been through this process of confirmation in the Senate, and both are well known to the senators, especially in the Judiciary Committee, the ones who have to look at this decision. And it normally moves from the Judiciary Committee, makes a vote, and then it goes to the full floor. And as it always happens, whoever holds a majority in the Senate holds a majority of seats in every committee. So the Judiciary Committee, majority Republican, expected to go along with it. But I want to hit on a couple of points that really are important to understand, because this is tremendously consequential. It's consequential because the left is trying every trick in the book they can to somehow delay this hearing. I can guarantee you, if they have a hearing in the normal hearing process, you'll have senators on the Democrat side saying, I put out investigators, I'm gathering data, we're still reviewing all the decisions they've issued. We can't possibly be ready for a hearing. It's going to take us 6, 8, 10 weeks before we can even be ready for hearing. There will be a dozen or more tricks up the Democrat sleeve of ways they can delay having this move forward. So Rush Limbaugh floated the idea yesterday, I think, that maybe the Senate shouldn't have any hearing at all. And I want to say, I actually think sometime deep back in American history, there may have been a very good reason to have Senate hearings. It may have been actually because we didn't have social media. We didn't have the instantaneous availability of information on the background information on candidates for the Supreme Court. We didn't have access online to finding the decisions they had issued and to forming opinions about them. But every member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, every member of the Senate, anyone in America who wants to know anything about these 2 nominees or any other nominee already knows. There's everything you could ever want is already known. So when the senators are clamoring for a hearing, they're clamoring on the Democrat side to behave like they did during the Kavanaugh hearings. If you recall that in 2018, when President Trump nominated Justice Kavanaugh, and the Democrats could hardly stand the idea that they were going to have to be part of voting for this man, voting him in to the Supreme Court, and they engaged in a long-term, stretched-out witch hunt, dragging up stories, allegations against Justice Kavanaugh from 40-plus years ago. No evidence, no possible reason based on his life to believe any of them, but still the nation had to watch all of that. And that is what I think Americans are hoping does not happen in this cycle. I actually think, because I did think about it quite a bit after hearing what Rush Limbaugh suggested, I think it's a great idea. I think the Senate can they can either set very limited hearings. We're having, 1 day to think about it. We have a vote in the Judiciary Committee, and then we're having 1 day of hearings on the floor, or 2 days, or none at all. The Republicans are right to not let the Democrats create the Three Stooges Act on national television during the entire process of what has been a traditional nomination hearing. They don't have to put up with that. America doesn't have to put up with that. These two judges are already well known to everyone who pays attention to the Supreme Court. They're well known to the members of the Judiciary Committee. The Democrat senators don't really want the opportunity to ask questions, to learn information. They want to, and they use these hearings to create little clips of themselves they can use for future campaign ads. Look how tough I was. Look what I said to Kavanaugh. Look what I said to this new person. They are creating campaign ads for themselves. They're working on preening themselves in front of the national cameras, trying to have the most incisive and often acerbic questioning. Often, many of the Democrat senators aren't even asking questions. They're not asking. They're just using the opportunity, the time allotted to them, to make a self-serving, pontificating, obnoxious, blathering speech, never asking a question of the nominee anyway. And there's no reason that America should put up with that silliness out of the Democrat Party. So I'm all in favor of the idea, either limited or no hearing at all, and get this vote done. The Democrats don't really have any questions they have to ask these two nominees or any other nominee who's had enough service in the judiciary to be on the short list for President Trump to nominate to the court. Love that idea. I also want to go on to mention that in particular, Mitt Romney, when he came out and said that he was going to honor the Constitution, I think what's going on there is Mitt Romney and other Republicans recognize the only reason that the Republicans held the majority in the Senate in 2018 during those midterm elections was because the Republican voters in America finally saw the Republicans show some backbone in the Senate. Republicans around this country, many even Democrats around this country, did not like the stunts pulled by the Democrats in the Senate and the confirmation hearing for Justice Kavanaugh. And they were so grateful to finally see the Republican Party find a backbone in the Senate, stand up, demand and call out these people making up stories about Kavanaugh, and bring it to a hearing and confirm him. This is why the Republicans held the majority in the U.S. Senate in 2018. And this is why you see Mitt Romney all of a sudden finding respect for the Constitution and respect for the right of President Trump to make a nomination to the Supreme Court. He knows that there were many, many Americans not wanting to see a replay of the Kavanaugh disaster and wanting to see Republicans act like they understand what the Constitution is. Democrats have behaved badly in this scene, as they have quite often. I want to just show you a brief clip. There was a rowdy protest outside the home, the Washington area home of Senator Lindsey Graham, who was the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and who was one that made the announcement that there were enough votes in the Senate to go forward and to work to at least have a hearing for and probably confirm the president's nomination for the Supreme Court. So here's the mob outside of Graham's house. Okay, I'm going to tell you that there's not really that much difference in terms of the intelligent articulation by the protesters in that little video. Those people were outside in the middle of the night outside of Senator Graham's Washington, D.C. home, outside, and they are screaming and making noise, and you hear banging drums and blowing noisemakers making a ton of noise in a residential area in Washington, all to protest Senator Graham's announcement that the Republicans really think they have the votes for this nomination. Senator Graham wasn't even home at the time. So all they're really doing is showing America this is what the Democrat Party is reduced to. In fact, there really wasn't very much difference in terms of what you heard these people screaming, yelling, protesting with no articulate message, very similar to how the Democrats behaved in the Kavanaugh hearing in 2018. They had no point. They had no serious arguments to make. They just wanted to make noise and get attention because they wanted to be seen fighting against the Republicans and against President Trump, but not with any serious substance. You had, in fact, in that particular hearing, you saw some of the worst behavior by Democrats in the United States Senate on in the Judiciary Committee and broadly in the overall Senate hearing, behaving very similarly as to the protesters outside of Senator Graham's house in Washington, D.C. Time to move on. This Senate, they already know these two nominees. There's no reason to have a hearing and give the Democrats a free advertisement creation period to do all of this. And there's no reason, I go again, because I'll tell you that many alleged women's groups are now speaking out saying that these two nominees, this Amy Coney Barrett and the other ones, I always lose the other one's name, Amy Coney Barrett and Lagoa, I think her last name is Lagoa, that these people, Barbara Lagoa, the Democrat leftists are saying these ladies are not fit to take the seat of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg because Bader Ginsburg stood for this and these ladies stood for the opposite. Again, it's not Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat. It's the Supreme Court. It's the court created by our Constitution. It's a court where every opening is filled by the process the Constitution provides. President nominates, Senate confirms, and I don't recall these same loudmouth groups complaining back in 2016 when President Obama tried to fill the Supreme Court justice seat of Antonin Scalia with a leftist Merrick Garland. Nobody made that argument. None of these leftists made the argument that you can't put a leftist in the same seat that Antonin Scalia held. They were clamoring to insist that Merrick Garland got confirmed. My point, and wrapping up the first five, is this. There is no principle. There is no principle. There is no logic. There's no basis to humor these kinds of arguments that are saying essentially President Trump should not be nominating someone to fill that seat. There's no principle behind it. All they're really saying is, dang, the way the Constitution is set up, we're going to lose out here because the president's allowed to nominate and the Senate's going to confirm, and there you go. And you know what? Even if Lindsey Graham really did mean to say we got the votes, we're going to confirm, why wouldn't he say that? Why shouldn't he say that? Why shouldn't they confirm? They know these two candidates. They know what they stand for. They already know that they are on the side of preserving the Constitution. And there's nothing to be gained by days and days of hearings for Democrats or Republicans in dragging out this process to create a media spectacle. And the media will be pouncing on every word any candidate, any nominee says, contorting their life history, contorting their story, smearing them. No reason to give the media or the Democrats any further argument on this point. Time to confirm whoever it is that President Trump nominates. And that, my very fine friends, is today's First Five.